Wolf 359, Part 5, by Aaron Vale. The first thing I noticed when we stepped through the door into Fang's den was the view. The entire outboard wall of the main room consisted of an alumina glass viewport. Right in the center of it hung Jalisi 205, the red dwarf star around which Orion's station orbited. The star seemed to be in the middle of a flare. Large yellow arcs of plasma arced out thousands of kilometers from the magnetic poles of the star, contrasting with the bright ruby tone of its photosphere. The result was breathtaking. Wow! Fang chuckled, barked something.
Quite a view, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. With a Herculean effort of will, I managed to drag my gaze from the star and look at the room itself. Simple yet well-made wooden furniture, constructed to Centaurian dimensions. Chairs, a stool, tables. A pile of furs against the onboard wall that seemed to approximate a sofa. The ubiquitous holographic display opposite the entryway. Fur rugs spread over most of the room. A curious juxtaposition of high-tech and rustic. It looked cozy, comfortable. A door next to the holo display opened, admitting an obviously female Centaurian. I was struck by the obvious similarities to humans. Apparently, nature only had so many tricks up its sleeve when it came to mammalian reproduction. She was slightly smaller than Fang, with shorter, cream-colored fur. Her pelvis, proportionally, was wider than his, much like a human woman's would be, and she had an obvious pair of breasts in about the right place, although they were rather smaller than most human women would have. Her muzzle was even shorter proportionally than his, though her ears seemed larger, as did her eyes. She was dressed in much the same way as Fang, fabric trousers and a sleeveless leather tunic or shirt. All in all, she seemed pretty attractive to my eyes, and I caught myself wondering what she looked like under her clothing. She smiled and said,
"Your friend seems to like me, Arfangel."
Holy shit, that was English. Fresh out of boot camp as I was, I snapped instinctively to attention. Heels together, feet at 45-degree angle to each other. Legs and back straight, arms at my side, fingers curled into my palms, thumbs lined up with the seams of my pants. Head up, eyes front. Please forgive me, ma'am. I've never met a Centaurian before today. I mean no offense. I felt my cheeks redden, embarrassed by my behavior. She laughed, a pleasant trill.
"I am not offended, blood brother. You may call me Nala."
She offered her hand, and I shook it, relaxing. Private James Monroe, United Stars Marine Corps. It is a pleasure to meet you, Nala. Your English is quite good. She nodded.
"Thank you, James. It turns out that our females have less trouble speaking your language than our males for whatever reason."
She gestured around the room.
"Please make yourselves comfortable. Be preparing a light meal. Would you like a beer?"
I relaxed, thankful. I would absolutely love one. Thank you, Nala. She smiled again and disappeared back into what I assumed was the kitchen, as I sank into a pile of furs. Fang sat across from me on a stool, chuckling. He barked something.
"My mate is something else, is she not?"
I nodded. Oh, that she is. I apologize for staring. Fang waved it off.
"As you said, you have never met any of our people before today. And besides, humans tend to find our females quite attractive, and Nala is beautiful by our standards. I'm a lucky devil dog."
He smiled.
"She is also extremely intelligent, more so than I am."
Nala chose that moment to come back with 2 frosty beer bottles, already opened.
"A Centaurian brew from our home world. I hope you enjoy it."
It was bitter, but good. Thick and dark, like stout, with a fairly high alcohol content. I like it.
Nala smiled. I shall return shortly with our snack. Is that the correct word?
I nodded. It is. She smiled and headed back into the kitchen. Fang looked over at me, took a deep breath.
Do you know anything of our society, James?
I shook my head. I'm afraid not. I took another drink. The beer was really good. The bitterness seemed to fade out after the first drink, to be replaced with sweet, almost fruity undertone. Man, I could get used to this stuff. Fang nodded, took a drink.
We live in packs, what you would call an extended family. Related packs grouped together under a clan, and our society is governed by a council of clans. My clan is known as Black Fang.
I nodded. Makes sense so far.
Good. Clans are composed of genetically related packs, and each clan has something of a specialty. For instance, Black Fang tend to be makers of things. Craftsmen, I believe is how you would term it.
I nodded.
Good. Now, in most clans, and there are hundreds, it is not required to be engaged in the clan's specialty. It is simply a genetic trait that gives us some talent for it. Nala, for instance, while she was born into Clan Black Fang, is not a maker of things, but an astronomer. Hence, the view.
I understand. I enjoyed another sip of beer. Hot damn, this was some good stuff. How well did the clans get along? Fang smiled sadly, if I was reading his expression correctly.
Not as well as we could, unfortunately. There is some mild conflict, hereditary disputes and such, though it rarely becomes violent anymore.
Yeah, that made sense. Sounds like us. Before World War III, we humans used to be divided into nations, like really big clans. Used to have some really nasty wars too. Chemical weapons, nuclear bombs, all that shit. We finally got our shit together after that, but it took almost a century to get it out of our system, and quit being assholes to each other. That was about 300 years ago, I think. Fang looked confused.
Assholes? You were anuses?
I laughed. Nah, see, asshole is slang. It means a guy who's mean, petty, hard to get along with. It's usually considered a vulgar term, like not something you use in a formal situation.
I'm not sure I understand. Why asshole?
I laughed again. I laughed. Because it's where shit comes out of, man. Calling a guy an asshole is saying he's full of shit and spewing it everywhere. Fang burst out laughing. A deep, panting guffaw that had my instinct screaming, "Dog, pet it!" His tongue was even sticking out. I squashed that down, killing the last of my beer to hide it.
I understand now. Your people are quite good with metaphors.
Hell, Fang, I'm just a dumb jarhead. Back on Earth, there's people who do that kind of thing for their living. Making movies, writing fiction, that sort of thing. He nodded.
We have storytellers as well.
Nala came back in, carrying a tray covered in steaming bowls and more beer.
I see you are enjoying my mate's company.
I nodded, accepting a bowl of meat in some kind of dark sauce. It smelled delicious. I am.
Good. I hope you will enjoy my cooking just as much.
She handed to me what, to all appearances, was a pair of chopsticks, and sat on a chair near her mate. I selected a morsel and tried it. Flavor exploded in my mouth as I bit down. Slightly spicy, with a rich flavor and texture, almost but not quite like beef. Oh, delicious! Nala kind of ducked her head and kind of nodded, ears up like a happy dog.
Thank you, James.
And I couldn't help watching to see how they used them. With 2 thumbs on each hand, they were able to manipulate them separately, much better than I could. It was, well, kind of weird, but not in a bad way, just different. I dug deeper into my bowl, and was surprised to find grains of some sort under the meat, almost like rice, but green. It tasted, well, different. Kind of nutty, with an earthy kind of accent, similar to the beer. It was good. I finished my bowl and drank some beer. As I did, I was struck by how normal it seemed. Here I was, 20 light years from home, and I was hanging out with an alien couple, eating food that could almost be Caribbean, and drinking good dark beer, sitting on a pile of dead animals, and watching a fucking star throw up through their living room window. Not quite what I expected when I joined the Corps, but hell, it beats staying on the ship.